On today's episode, we're talking golf on the Monterey Peninsula. We just got back from the Links Invitational at Pebble Beach. A wonderful trip this year. Look forward to going back there again next year. I had the chance to play a couple of the lesser known courses out there on that special parcel of California. Of course, everyone knows Cypress Point, Pebble Beach, even Monterey Peninsula Country Club. Today, we're going to talk about a few of the courses that aren't really on a ton of people's radar on the Monterey Peninsula. So, great conversation with Joe on those. We are brought to you by the Landings Golf and Athletic Club just outside of historic Savannah, Georgia, one of the most desirable golf club communities in the Southeast. They have 6 championship golf courses, exceptional pool facilities, tennis, clubhouses, dining venues, and more. Visit thelandings.com/golf to learn more about them. I am Al Lunsford, digital editor for Links. This is the Links Golf Podcast. Enjoy this episode on lesser known gems on the Monterey Peninsula. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Links Golf Podcast. I am Al Lunsford, digital editor for Links, with Joe Passoff, my co-host. Today we are talking Monterey golf in the Monterey Peninsula in California. We just returned from our trip to Pebble Beach Resorts, the Links Invitational at Pebble Beach in 2026. Joe had a fantastic week, played 3 courses, of course, Pebble Beach. We got on Spyglass and then added Poppy Hills to the mix for the first time this year as Spanish Bay goes under the knife for a renovation restoration effort from Gil Hands. Joe, it was the best week we have ever had as it relates to weather. Unbelievable. I mean, a slight breeze, maybe abundant sunshine, and temperatures so high they broke into the 80s while we were there, which it designates a heat advisory for that area of California. It felt like summer out there, and all the locals were losing it because of how hot it was. Of course, to me, that was very pleasant to be out there. In your experience at Pebble Beach, what's the best weather you remember having there?
I have been fortunate to been at Pebble Beach many, many times, and I think my round total is only 8, but I've visited a bunch and covered tournaments there. To the best of my recollection, in 46 years of Pebble Beach experience, I have never experienced temperatures in the 80s.
Yeah,
I
I think
did,
it was, records for the
yeah.
time
Because
of
we
year.
had there were records set all out west. Palm Springs had a tennis tournament, and Phoenix, Scottsdale. It's been bizarre. But looking in on what you guys were experiencing, I mean, it's such a thrill and such a treat to be able to play Pebble Beach in any weather. But when you can take in the magic without having to battle the elements, uh, it's just a notch above. I had a week in 1994, one of those great magazine assignments where I was spent 8 days in the area and and had perfect weather every day, and that was mid to late February. It was during the 1994 Winter Olympics, and it was a little unusual to be that good that long, but it was no higher than 70, maybe 72 for a high. So to experience what you got, I mean, it very seldom gets to that heat in the summer, in the middle of the summer, with that number. So well done, sir. Another pretty glowing recommendation to experience as a links reader to go out and play in the Pebble Beach Invitational.
Yeah. But this is also after, last year we had winds blowing consistently in the 40s and 50s on one of the days. A couple years back, we had an atmospheric river come through and made some things challenging one of the tournament days. Didn't prevent us from playing. We were still out there getting our bucket list round checked off the list. So some years, you battle something differently. This year, you had to wear some sunscreen for sure, but it was great. Everyone had a wonderful time. We had some great prizes this year that are the competitors at the Links Invitational came away with. Just wanted to thank really quickly FootJoy, Blue Tees, Sun Mountain, and TaylorMade for the prizes they provided to our participants at the Links Invitational at Pebble Beach. So we are in the process of getting those dates finalized for 2027. Be on the lookout for next year's event. But being that we got Poppy Hills in the rotation this time, that was a first for me. I'd never been in there, Joe. I'd read what you had to write about that in a few pieces that we've had on our website over time. So that kind of spurred us into this conversation today about the lesser known gyms of courses around Pebble Beach in Monterey. Of course, everyone knows the courses at Pebble Beach Resorts. You know about Cypress Point and Monterey Peninsula, those famous private clubs that are down there. But what else is in that little sliver of land that juts out into the Pacific Ocean? We will cover that today. Before we get to that, let's stay at Pebble Beach Resorts for a second, because you and I wanted to talk about maybe some of the underrated holes at both Pebble Beach and Spyglass, the host of the AT&T Invitational on the PGA Tour. Everyone talks about 7 at Pebble. I think Spyglass, the first hole and the third and fourth holes get a lot of play and love. But what else on either of those courses do you find to be a fascinating or underrated golf hole? So I'll let you go first, and let's talk first about Pebble Beach golf links.
Yeah, that's good, Al. And it's true. We're lucky enough to have Pebble Beach on television every year. And, like how much original conversation can you make about the approach shot to the eighth hole? How many times have I written over a 35-year period, Jack Nicklaus's favorite second shot in golf, to a small green ring with,
Yeah,
that's why
danger,
Pebble
steep
is Pebble.
cliff ahead, all that stuff.
Yep. So it's fun when there's a course tweak or two or a restoration. A new tee added ahead of the tournament this year on the sixth, the par five. But there are just some holes that go under the radar, or fly low anyway. And we'll talk about a couple of them. For me, it was a close call. Actually, my first choice you took. So we're in agreement there, but very close is I will start with the third hole at Pebble Beach. And I don't know why it doesn't get a little more love. Um, it's a pretty cool dog leg left. Calls for a forced carry, but you don't need to carry it all that far to find some part of the fairway. The fairway kind of runs at a little bit of a diagonal to the tee. And so if you kind of hit a weak pop fade, you're still in the fairway. Even if you've hit it 120 yards, you're there. Well, really long second shot. The whole measure's about 400 yards. Their scorecard says 397. AT&T Pebble Beach scorecard says 404. So what do I like about it? A lot, because it's actually great risk reward. If you decide to shorten the hole on a dogleg left, take it down the left side a little bit, you're going to have to carry some bunkers, left side bunkers. For a good player, that's not a big deal where they're placed. The rest of us, yeah, a little bit of a gamble. But you also have trees over there, and you have a little kind of ditch-like depression to the left of that fairway. So the issue is it messes with your mind somewhat because it's a bit of a blind shot if you take that angle. Well, why do it? Okay, well, it shortens the hole, but every bit as important is it gives you a much better angle into this green. That is critical because if you take the line out to the right and there's 3 bunkers on the far elbow, sitting in the landing area, and you're like, yeah, I've got a club that's comfortable. I'm not going to try to like rip a driver with a draw and go that way. Just pop something out there. The problem is now you've got a much tougher angle because you generally have to carry a bunker on your second to a small green if the hole is placed center or right, back right. So now, man, you got to carry the bunker and stop it before it goes through the green into the back rough or a bunker. The green does tilt pretty good, kind of towards the front, back to front, and to the left. So if you're coming from the left side, you get the perfect angle in. If you're coming from the right center or the right side, now it's a little bit awkward, and you really got to play a perfect shot. You know who didn't play a perfect shot was Tiger Woods back in the 2000 US Open. Third round, he is running away with the tournament, 9 under par after 38 holes, and he dumps his approach shot just short of the bunker, front right. And the hay was so gnarly, not Peter Hay, but the rough. It took him 2 swipes to get out of it because he had to try to feather a little flop just to get over the bunker and on the green. He made triple bogey 7. And you know what? That little innocent looking hole is the seventh, what played the seventh toughest of all 18 holes when the AT&T played here this time. It also gives you the first glimpse of the Pacific Ocean. It's not an awesome glory glimpse, but at least, yes, we're playing by the Pacific. There it is. And just an underrated hole that deserves a little more respect.
Yeah, it's that green side, front right green side bunker that kind of makes or breaks this hole based on where your drive can be. You almost have to play the hole backwards because you want to make sure that you have a line towards the green that kind of avoids that. And it's funny, I have my scorecard from the first time I played Pebble Beach with my dad, more than a decade ago. And I look back because I wanted to see how I did on that hole, and I parred it. And I'm pretty sure that's the only time I've ever parred that hole in
It,
five
it
or so
is
attempts. Um,
sneaky tough.
yeah, if you go straight off the tee, you're going to end up either in the bunker or the rough on the right, most likely, and that's a bad spot to be. Um, Over the trees, you just have to get it over, and then you're in a decent spot. But you might be in the rough, and you might have a situation where, again, it's going to be hard to stop that ball. It's a sneaky, tough hole. Um, asking you to place a shot off the tee, essentially, and it's no surprise, I think, that there have been some pros that have had trouble with it, like you mentioned. But for me, you mentioned that I stole your hole. Um, Number 4, the par 4, fourth, only 333 yards off the tee. Um, this is a sneaky hole, though. Kind of plays uphill, bunkers all up the left side and sneaking up on the right side as you get towards the green, pinching in the front of a minuscule green. I say sneaky because if it's your first time playing at Pebble Beach, I mean, you may have seen pictures of this hole, but what you don't really understand from the tee is what lurks on the right side of this hole. Should you kind of pop fade one out to the right, very easily it can bound and sort of tilts that way towards Stillwater Cove. The beach club at Pebble Beach Resorts is right there. You could dump one in the beach that you thought was a really, good and smart shot off the tee pretty easily. And this is the first one that combats the coast as you go on that run from 4 to 10. So right out of the gate. But even like let's say you have seen it a few times, like I have. I think this year I hit a 4-iron off the tee to kind of leave myself 100 or so yards in. And that's a nervy shot to begin with because now you've got bunkers that weren't in play that are based on your club choice. You've got to clear sort of a trench and a bunker that stretches all the way across to get to the fairway. and you can still find your way in the water because it's a very short hole. Now once you've, tackled that obstacle of getting it in the fairway, hopefully, and out of danger. Um, I don't know if it is. It seems like the smallest green on the course there at the fourth. Pinching in, especially at the front of it, it's maybe 10 yards or less across, and completely ringed by bunkers. You can't really see the putting surface from your approach shot if you're too far back at that point. Of course, what's stopping you from running a shot up there with a driver or a 3-wood? Nothing really, but you basically have to land it in a 20-yard circle up if you're not going to land on the green or end up in a greenside bunker. But it just, for such a tiny hole, and I know it says on their website that it's the only par 4 to play under par at the 2019 U.S. Open. For us, average Joes playing this course, it has its list of challenges that make it 333 yards on the card, but feel like so much more.
Well, there's nobody more average than this average Joe. And that hole in its day always terrorized me. I was typically a low straight hitter, and I would get caught by the cross bunker. It's happened more than once. And so I think this is also one of those holes, Al, that actually has improved, not just the little design tweaks, but it's actually improved because of the length of today's great players. Because it is now, instead of just being a drive and pitch hole with whatever club you want to put it in play and, again, play it in reverse, how far do you want to come in? Because sometimes those were hard to measure when the wind is blowing, when the weather is up, and that kind of thing. I think given good players can go for it, really, really hard to find the putting surface, but not impossible. And so then the question is, okay, well, what kind of little shot are you left with, and how talented are you to a tilted, very small green, lots of trouble all over the place? And so do you really want to risk hitting driver, or 3-wood, depending on conditions, and then go back to that strategy of a 4-iron and bring your sand wedge in there? It's still a tricky, tough shot with a sand wedge from that distance. So I think that makes it a great hole, because you're going to have choices, and it's going to play different depending on the wind, your strategy. And there's the ocean. It's right there to your right. So you really get the true feel of the seaside nature of Pebble Beach for the first time at the fourth. So great choice. I don't care whether you stole it from me or not. We agree that I just think whether it plays under par or not, it's a tremendous golf hole.
Yeah, you spend so much time wanting to avoid the bunkers on the left that you forget about the right running out of real estate pretty quickly. So, really good hole. Any others just to mention off the top? I really enjoy the second hole as well, the par 5 second, because it's probably the least challenging of the par 5s out at Pebble Beach, I would think. But once you kind of it's sort of all about that second shot to me. Like, what do you do to avoid, again, another cross bunker that, if you've never played before, you don't know is 10 feet deep, buried below the green, 40 yards short of it. But you have to decide if you're going to go for it. Again, a green sort of pinched by bunkers or lay back, but you have to lay back well enough to avoid these overhanging trees around that cross bunker and get a decent enough shot in there. So there's some more thought to that hole, I think, than even if you think it through and play it smartly, you'll be fine. But it seems like it's easy enough, but more of a thinking hole than the other par 5s might be.
My choice would be number 16. And I've always liked the look of the hole, although they've narrowed it, in years, the last few years. Um, but there's something about it that says, okay, now we're going to ask you to really be precise. When you think about putting the ball into play at 16, you do have to think about which side of a fairly small fairway. Um, but left center is optimum. But wherever you go, whether it's left side, right side, there are two trees, one on either side, that's just short of this barranca, a barranca that runs perpendicular to the line of play. So it's a forced carry, but there's basically a formalized sand bunker in that barranca. Um, for good players, it does not see much action. The bunker itself is kind of wishbone shaped. Um, I think my preference was how it used to look 75 years ago, where it was just scruffier, more natural, and you take your chances. But in this day and age, it just doesn't come into play all that often. It's just a neat visual. What does come into play is the tilt of this green, which is just scary. When you get the green firm enough and quick enough, it can be maybe a little repetitive because it's so unusual. It slopes so hard right to left that with any center or right hole location, all you're doing is hitting middle of the green and letting the ball drift and trundle a little bit to the left. So you'll have an uphill putt of anywhere from 15 to 40 feet. Sometimes that can be so slow, it can be unnerving going back up the hill. But boy, oh boy, you do not want to miss the target right and have a downhill chip racing away, which will surely race into the opposite rough. You don't really want to miss long because, again, now you're coming downhill with a left to right break on the side hill. It's just all about the green complex, basically. And so if you do hit it crooked off the tee and you're struggling just to reach the green, now this hole gets really, really interesting.
Well, that's interesting too. Both those holes, 2 and 16, the approach, you kind of have this chute of trees you have to navigate through, goalpost type trees towards the green, and it's all about position right there. So, all right, let's go to Spyglass. What are your Spyglass? What's your underrated Spyglass hole?
Yeah, I mean, Spyglass again gets, as you mentioned, so much glory for its opening five holes, which play through the sand dunes and ocean views and everything. And then at six, goodbye ocean. We're going up into the hills inland, very Augusta National looking with big tall pines. And and now you start to, what's a great hole, what's not so great. And um, and so one of the holes that has come back to me over and over since I first played it in 1980, yes, is the eighth. So the eighth hole is a par four um, that dog legs to the left, not a heavy dog leg, but it dog legs to the left. It goes uphill, elevated green, but the fairway is on a left to right tilt. What the uh, what the in the know architects call a reverse camber. Okay, when I'm a teenager, I'm just not understanding this at all. It it makes no sense to me why you would route a golf hole going this way and then the terrain is going the other way. So if you have any side spin whatsoever on the old-fashioned wooden drivers, which are seemingly always sliced for me, now you can hit the fairway and it rolls into the rough. I mean, like a guided missile goes into the rough. Eventually, I learned to understand that architects don't love to do reverse camber holes, but sometimes both the routing asks for it, and sometimes it's just cool for variety to ask a good player, okay, the slope's going this way. Let's see if you can flight your ball and curve it to where it will hold the fairway as best as you can. And now you're standing in a strange way. Your lie is awkward, and you got to go uphill to an elevated green. It's asking a lot from a mediocre 15 handicap golfer. For a better player, it's saying, we want to test the full range of what you got in your arsenal. Well, this hole for many, many years played as the toughest hole at Spyglass during the AT&T. That doesn't always. It is the number one handicap hole on Spyglass Hill, and it's 399 yards. So, yeah, it plays longer. It's definitely an odd golf hole. You will find architecture critics out there that can't stand any hole like this. Olympic Club has its share as well because it just goes against the natural flow of the land. But for me, if you don't use it too often, I think it's a really, really cool example of giving your course some variety in what you have to do in curving a ball, flighting it, and dealing with stances and lies. So that's my vote, the eighth hole at Spyglass Hill.
It is sort of you feel a little bit uneasy on standing on that tee box, looking at the fairway that tilts the opposite way of what you think it should, and it's uphill. Can't really see where the ball is landing past the crest of the hill. There is a nice collection area that I found myself in many times off to the right, down below the fairway, should you not hold it as you were describing, which gives you then a blind second shot approach to that green, which you sort of pick a tree that lines up with where you're at and try to run one up there. But there's also a huge false front on that green that should you even get up to where it is, you might come rolling back down. As long as you're pitching back to the green from the left side, it's a decent place to leave yourself. Right's no good of that green, it seems. I haven't ever been over there, fortunately, but it doesn't look like a good place to approach that green from. Yeah, it's just plain hard, that hole. And it doesn't feel like it should be, but it is. And the reverse camber, that's a good one. And I was like, when are we going to see that Olympic Club again? I know we had the U.S. Amateur there in 2028 PGA going to the Olympic Club. But yeah, good, tough golf hole. Signal Hill is what they call it.
Yeah, it would signal bogey or double bogey for me when I would play it. So
Likewise, yeah.
how about you,
I
Al?
I like the 10th hole, actually. So taking the turn, I've always liked, in the opposite way of being sort of flummoxed by what you're looking at off the 8th tee. I've always liked the framing of the shot on the 10th tee. Down the hill, dogleg sweeping left. There's one tree out there on the left side of the fairway, kind of the edge of the fairway, that you must think about in terms of where you want your golf shot to end, because you can decide to lay back from that tree to give yourself enough space to move around it as you approach the green. It's listed at 407 yards, but the downhill makes it play a little bit shorter. Or you can tee off with a driver and try to get around it on the other side. But again, the fairway kind of pinches in. It is sort of like a half pipe style fairway that everything feeds towards the center. If you get too far right, you'll get stuck in a couple of bunkers up on the right side hill there. And then I just think this green is one of the best, also talking about framing, just one of the best framed greens with the bunkers, like almost shamrock style bunkers surrounding this thing. It makes for a nice picture. I've taken a couple of pictures of that green before. I was between this and 11, and a lot of it had to do with that bunkering around those two greens. 11's a par 5 that once you turn the corner to the right, You've got a big carry over. Oh, I don't know if you call it a ravine or not, but it seems sort of like uh, a giant. There is a creek down there, but um, it's a relatively flat shot straight across. But you dip down as you ride back up to this green, and it's the bunkering there is a really cool setup. But 10, for whatever reason, you're coming off of 8, and 9 is also a tough hole for me on Spyglass, and you're just trying to reset as you go into the back 9. So I think it's a very receptive hole, gets you back on your game if you're able to hit a good one to approach the screen, but it's just always set up nicely for me and doesn't play that difficult. So I like Captain Flint, number 10 at Spyglass.
Aye, Captain.
Yeah. And then just the whole back 9 is very pleasant. As you talked about, those ocean holes get a lot of the love. And when you think about Spyglass, you're probably thinking about one of those first 4 holes. The fifth is an okay par 3, but the first 4 holes are really spectacular. But the 2 drop shot par 3s on the backside, 12 and 15, are really spectacular. Feel like you described, sort of Augusta-like in the way those holes are, the corridors of those holes and the look and feel. Any others of mention for you?
Yeah, I mean, this could be just a podcast about how underrated Spyglass Hill is. And we're not the first to say that. It's been a favorite of mine for, all these years. I understand why, critics have taken shots at it over the years. Maybe the blend of holes could have been, handled differently with the routing. I mean, but it is what it is. And wow, if you're a good player and you just like stepping into the ring and want a heavyweight fight, you got one every day in any conditions with Spyglass Hill. As the game has gotten easier to play for really good players, Spyglass will still step up and go toe to toe with you. And that has the respect factor, whether or not you finish on the ocean. Whether or not there's maybe one too many uphill approaches, whatever. We should celebrate the differences, the variety from course to course to course. And Spyglass just says, yeah, you think you're good? Come get me.
And I think this is like sort of the ultimate underrated course example because, as you've said before, if Pebble Beach and
Pebble Beach,
very nice Pebble Beach Curvis tumbler there for Joe. If you're not next to Pebble Beach golf links and Cypress Point, and you put Spyglass Hill somewhere else, I mean, it is absolutely the draw of any golf course nearby. So that leads into a great transition for this underrated courses of Monterey conversation that we're finally getting to now that we've lushed and gushed over the holes at Pebble and Spyglass. So let's start. I want to start actually with the other course we played, Poppy Hills. Not a sibling of Pebble Beach, not part of the resort, but inside a long 17-mile drive, Poppy Hills. I think it took us 9 minutes by car from the lodge at Pebble Beach to get over to Poppy Hills. So it is the home of the Northern California Golf Association, or owned and operated by it at least. 1986 RTJ Junior design. We did a nice job of telling our folks that were coming who, maybe they were hoping to play Spanish Bay. And when you end up with Poppy Hills, you're like, okay, what's the deal with this place? And a lot of people don't know that it was a co-host of the Pebble Beach, the AT&T Pro-Am, for quite some time, Joe. Almost 2 decades, Poppy Hills was in the rotation. And A few years back, a little over a decade ago, we had a little makeover. Some really good holes out there, I think. The closing hole, the front nine, I really liked, par five. Uh, in comparison, Joe, maybe you can get there with me. I told someone when we played it, it felt like the 18th hole at Kapalua a little bit.
Mm.
Closing par five, that second shot, the green sort of works right to left and downhill. You've got an all carry shot there if you want to go for it, but some bailout to the right as well. Um, Very similar to me and in terms of setup. And then the next hole right after that, the 10th, I thought was really good. So you had back to back par fives on the card. That was fun. I think the new holes were, let's see, 11th right after that and 12. 11 a really good, sort of small par three, and then 12 had nice long range view out over the green from the tee that you could see um, out out over everything, and you get a little bit of ocean there because that's not something you really feel much at all at Poppy Hills. But it was nice to get some perspective again of where you're at, being on that 12th tee. 18, another good par five to end on. I love closing on a par five, so you get that on both sides. I thought it was a nice way to add a little bit more variety to the trip that we took. Um, you could argue could you play Spyglass twice and Pebble once, or once you play Pebble twice, things get a little bit pricier as you might expect. But getting Poppy Hills in there was fun. I'm glad we checked it off the list and got a chance to see it. What do you think about Poppy?
Yeah, I'm glad. And it's absolutely worth seeing. It does have all that PGA Tour history. Um, the Champions Tour, the PGA Tour champions, played there for a number of years, and they still be on the rotation when they play the first tee tournament in early September. And I believe it was Nick Price. I might quote, could have been somebody else, but basically called it the best improvement, transformation, renovation that he had ever seen. I don't want to attribute it to Nick if it wasn't him, but um, this was a golf course that was a really solid test when it was designed in the 1980s to be the new home for the Northern California Golf Association, because Spyglass was reverting strictly under Pebble Beach Resort's auspices. So Robert Trent Jones Jr. and his firm designed Poppy Hills originally, and the original design was very much a product of its time. I mean, hey, you're serving the Northern California Golf Association with this. What did golf look like in the 80s? Well, there were lots of mounds and sectionalized greens, and that's what we were building in the 1980s. In addition, there wasn't a ton of extra money to go into drainage, to go into those sorts of things. It was just, hey, we need a new home course, and that's what it was. So the other perception problem that it had was it replaced Cypress Point in the rotation for the AT&T. Well, when you're comparing a golf course, a new golf course that goes just through the trees versus Cypress Point, yeah, I mean, folks are going to take shots at you. So in the end, Poppy Hills was a good golf course, a should play. I felt after the renovation, and it was a big one in 2013, 2014, that it went from a should play to a must play, that it was that good. Yes, you only get a couple of glimpses of the ocean, but the other golf holes were so well done. The concept changed. They went to the shortcut rough and pine straw instead of heavy rough. They took down the mounds. They combed down the greens. They gave you an ocean view at 12. It just became more fun, whether you were playing well or you weren't, and you're still in a beautiful setting. So, yeah, golf clap for the fact that you got to play there finally. And you saw, this is now 12, 13 years into the renovation, just a better version than how it appeared originally.
It did feel like you could almost drop that course in Pinehurst and it would fit right in. Um,
Hmm.
and to your point about the improvements, obviously I don't have any concept of what it looked like before, but uh, it's not like the holes really blended together. Thinking back through my round, I could remember each individual hole, um, which is always a good sign when you're thinking about a golf course and how you evaluate it. So, um, yeah, I hope I get the chance to play it again. You know, I'm sort of taking everything in and trying to figure out my way around as I'm playing out there, Poppy Hills. As you do the first time you play a golf course, you're just trying to figure it out. Generally, the second time you play a golf course, I think it's more enjoyable. So I look forward to getting another crack at it.
Good deal.
Second place I'll go, Joe, was another round I snuck in during the week out of California, and that is TPC Monterey at Pasadena. This is a course that opened in 2000, Jack Nicklaus signature design that's gone by a couple of different names. The club at Pasadena most recently, I believe Pasadena Golf and Country Club, maybe when it was first conceived. So it's gone through a couple of identity changes, but the layout has remained the same. I wanted to kind of just walk through. This was added to the TPC network in 2025, so it's a members course for that network of folks. But you also have access, I learned later on, if you were a gin pub person that wanted to come and maybe play. There is a hotel nearby in Carmel Valley where you can stay and play and get on out there. But I wanted to I took some like notes as I was playing the course. I went out there by myself. I was a onesome. I played in less than 3 hours, didn't wait a single second out there, and loved every bit of it. It was a golf course that rare is the time that, I have no expectations going out there and not really understanding what I'm about to play. And I was giddy at points in this round, just getting out there and being like, oh, what is this? I had talked to a couple people, like, someone at the starter, a member came by and saw I had a Charlotte Country Club hat on, and someone recognized that and was starting to talk to me. And both of them had said, front nine's pretty good, but wait till you get to the back. You'll really enjoy that. And said, yeah, the 14th hole is great, signature hole. Just wait till you see it. So that's all I'm going off of, is just like, hey, just give it some time. Get to that back nine, and then you'll understand. So the front nine sort of winds through a valley. We're 10 miles inland from Pebble Beach at this point, playing through the Santa Lucia Mountains, long views of the mountain range. So it's a very cool feel, not something you get every day. Handshake par 5 opener. Second hole is a drivable, if you dare, par 4, almost straight uphill. So don't really know what you're looking at. You can get up there pretty close. Drop shot par 3 at the third. Very cool mountain backdrop there. Then you get into some inland holes in the valley. Long par 4, fifth and sixth holes crisscross over each other. So you're hitting the sixth hole is a par 3 that plays over the lake. You're hitting over that same lake in a diagonal direction for the par 4 fifth. Thought that was kind of a neat thing. No one really in danger either on either of those shots off the tee. So interesting routing. Downhill par 5, 7th. 8 is a par 3 you carry over the lake, and 9 was a long par 4 back toward a sort of ends right across from the clubhouse. There's a lake that separates the ninth green and the clubhouse behind it. Hacienda style clubhouse. Pretty cool looking. 10, at this point I'm thinking, all right, I'm getting to the back nine, so what's the deal? 10's sort of a par 5 sweeping right downhill. Um, 11, a long uphill par 3 to a diagonal green. 12, pretty uphill par 5. The second of 3 on the back 9, so you get 2 par 5s in 3 holes out of the gate. And it goes pretty severely up the hill. You're climbing the entire way. 13 is a par 4 where it's sort of a placement shot. You can't see the green from the tee, just bends hard right. So hit it up and then up to an elevated green. I'm still not like, I'm just wondering where the drop is going to be at some point on this side because it hasn't happened yet. I haven't had any aha moments. But once you go from 13 green, you're driving for, a good minute and a half in the cart, almost straight uphill the whole way. You're just climbing mountain. You get up top to the 14th, which they call their signature hole, and that's for a reason because you're literally on top of the mountain. The view from the back tee box there over another ravine. This is a proper ravine. We were talking about ravines on Spyglass and Pebble. This is hundreds of feet dropping to an infinity green perched on a cliff's edge on the other side of the mountain. Unbelievable looking golf hole. Even from the other tee boxes a little bit further up, it's still all carry to this magnificent peninsula green. So at that point, I'm like, okay, that's a good moment in this round. And it's sort of, I'm like, all right, this is it. This is what I've been building to, and then we're just gonna go back down from there. Oh, we went back down. I called 15 a holy bleeping bleep tee box from the tips, plunging hundreds of feet to the fairway below. At one point, this is the longest par 4 in North America, was their claim. And I clocked about 551 yards from the back tee on the scorecard. I'm not aware of what holes surpassed it as the longest par 4 in North America, but it's because of this gigantic drop shot off the tee. It's just a golf shot that you don't get to hit very often in any occasion, even mountain courses. You rarely get a huge drop off the tee where you're just kind of sending one into the atmosphere and waiting for it to drop all the way down. Really, really fun. Sort of an average par 3 after that, and I think I'm done again. Then you get to the 17th, it's a par 5. You get another one of those drives. Not as severe as 15, but still a significant drop off the tee. And so I'm just kind of like laughing to myself that I didn't really know what to expect, and it sort of blew me away. 18's a long par 4 that finishes at the clubhouse. I loved the routing. I loved the day. Just again, a golf course that you're not going to see very often or play very regularly in any setting. So big kudos to TPC Monterey. I hope more people get the chance to see it.
Al, you're one up on me there. Yeah, I have never been on the property, and it has maintained a very low profile for at least 25, 26 years. Obviously, some different management ownership situations. And it's in a rough neighborhood, to try to compare to Pebble and Cypress, Monterey Peninsula, and so forth. But having spent a lot of time in that area, one of the advantages to being 10 miles inland is you get more reliable weather in terms of sunshine, a little warmer temperatures. So that's a very appealing aspect for people, whether you're maybe a member of another club or choose to play on the coast. There's something to be said for great views, wonderful club atmosphere. In a similar vein, not too far away and built at just a couple years afterwards is a club called Tehama. I may not get the pronunciation right, even though I've played it Um, and maybe what they're best known for is that it was built, owned by Clint Eastwood. And he had Jay Morrish do the golf course. Uh, People forget what a brilliant designer that Jay Morrish was. And by the time he did this course, he had a long partnership with Tom Weiskopf, had worked for Jack Nicklaus for many years, had even been on the crew at Spyglass Hill when Trent Jones was building it in the mid 60s. So Jay Morrish knew his way around these parts. Um, a similar piece of property, maybe even more severe at Tehama. Um, you're up in they're cliff-like mountain sort of features with the golf holes. And some of them are just very narrow. Some of them go way downhill, plunges like you're talking about at TPC Monterey. Others go back uphill, which, it helps to be a little better player to be able to handle those uphill holes. Mostly, it it can be fairly challenging hitting your shots into a fairly narrow bowl, but spectacular. The views, distant views of the ocean, um, being in the mountains and overlooking the Monterey Peninsula, that's a thrill. The clubhouse, magnificent. The setting, absolutely magnificent. Yeah, you got to have a little bit of a discipline and appreciation for playing more conservative golf. You don't want to spray the ball at a course with so many canyons where, boom, another golf ball lost. But it's thrilling. It's drama all over the place, and there's something to be said for that. Now, Clint is, of course, a co-owner of Pebble Beach, a longtime member at Cypress Point. I mean, nobody asked me, but if I had the chance to go hang at Cypress Point every day, I certainly would take advantage of that. But being inland and warmer, sunnier, different, completely different type of golf, Tehama, if you can wrangle an invitation, is worth getting on at least one time and having a go at it.
Yeah, it looks spectacular. Uh, Sort of those same type of elements that I was describing. Uh, yeah, maybe even more so. This looks really, really good. Um, as do the amenities list on their website. The Pro Shop offers complimentary continental breakfast and fresh fruit daily. Homemade potato chips and fresh baked cookies are a signature statement and always a guest favorite. Do you have some of
Yes,
those
I did.
cookies?
I did. And the
Oh,
fresh fruit. Yeah, I did both, but you're there, you want to try everything. And it is a magnificent setting. And in fact, I did grab a shirt from the pro shop. Their big tournament there is called the Clint.
oh
And
yeah.
the logo is of Clint Eastwood in one of those spaghetti Western movies that he made, A Fistful of Dollars. Uh, and those movies where he's wearing like the I don't know what the Western guys call it, a cape and his Western gunslinger hat. It's a neat logo, the outline, and yeah, pretty cool place to belong or spend a day.
Another neat place to spend a day that I want to make sure we get to before it gets too long here. Uh, I think it, and I've said as much, is America's ultimate hidden gem, Joe, that more and more people are figuring out about. 5 miles north, as the crow flies, of Pebble Beach, is Pacific Grove Golf Links. Uh, and this is a course I could play every day for the rest of my life and be totally content. A low key vibe, the poor man's Pebble Beach, as they call it, because of mostly because of its back nine. Don't sleep on the front nine though. The quirk and charm of this front nine is really enjoyable to me. It starts with back to back par threes, first of all. How often are you going to get that? I Do you have another example of that of a course that uh, much less has back to back par threes, but starts with two par threes?
Yeah, in a par 70, I don't know of any other course that starts with two par threes.
Yeah. All for the price of, a muni essentially, the a top scale muni, paying less than $100 to play at Pacific Grove. Get out first off. That would be my recommendation. Uh, you're weaving through a neighborhood on the front nine, and playing some very quirky holes to begin with before you get to that back nine that Pacific Grove is so known for. I actually think you get back-to-back par threes again on the ninth and 10th, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm remembering that correctly. Um, Before you start going out to the ocean, um, I know you've written that par 5 12th is uh, you get your first breath of ocean air, pure ocean air that's not too far away. Par 5, bending right with the ocean on your left. That's such a good golf hole. Um, the remaining holes kind of serpentine back up the hill under the lighthouse at Pacific Grove before you kind of get out back to the ocean again. There's a par 3 that plays parallel to the surf, and then you go back uphill for a short par 4 to end it. Um, Pacific Grove is, yeah, maybe the ultimate value in golf. I call it the ultimate hidden gem. If you've played it, this is a special, special spot.
It's a lot of fun. Anybody that's read anything I've written over 35 years knows what a fan I am of the place. Again, first saw it on my first Pebble trip in 1980. So yeah, I think what you have to say, I mean, it's got a lighthouse, it's got a little pond carry. You see artists painting as you're playing the course. Just the fact that it's relatively inexpensive and actually plays next to the ocean. Now, it is just 5,700 yards. So a good player is going to get a kick out of it. Some really, really fun holes and incredible scenery for a great price. But yeah, these are not like really interesting contoured greens. And there's not enough length, for some players to say, yeah, I'd put this in the great category. What it is just what you said at the beginning. One of the absolute great hidden gems, again, considering the neighborhood it's in, and certainly one of the best values anywhere.
And just kind of a staple of that community. It's a good chance you're going to get paired up with somebody who's this is their, daily thing, or they play every week, same time on a Saturday morning, something like that. It's just, I thought it exuded a charm that is rare, and you get at only certain types of places that this setting is ridiculous for a course of this caliber. Um, all right, I've exhausted my list, I think, of underrated courses. Did you have any more you wanted to speak to?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to talk about every single course up and down the Monterey area. But there's a couple more that if you need extra golf besides Pebble and Spyglass, um, and you haven't wrangled your Cypress Point or Monterey Peninsula Invitation, just north of Pebble Beach, a little higher up into Monterey, is the very strange name of Bayonet Black Horse. Uh, it used to be an army base called Fort Ord, and the golf courses were designed in the 50s. And Bayonet in particular, they used to call that the poor man's Spyglass Hill because it was so challenging, and was a longtime site for what now is the Corn Ferry Tour. And the winning score was seldom much under par. It was always single digits, so difficult. And ocean views, although it didn't play right next to the ocean, Bayonet is the stronger challenge of the two, but both were redesigned by Gene Bates in 2008, another former Nicklaus guy, and much prettier bunkers, more variety in the layouts, a little drier. The ball runs a little bit more. If you're looking for challenging golf in the 67 to 7,000 range with really good bunkering and so forth, you'll find that at Bayonet and also its sibling Black Horse. I'd rather focus now very quickly on going east on Carmel Valley Road. Uh, G16 is the name of the number of the road, and there are three golf courses out there that are definitely worth your while. Two are open for at least public access. One is Carmel Valley Ranch, which doesn't get as much love these days as it did 30 to 40 years ago. Pete Dye designed it in 1981, maybe 80, 81, 82. And again, it goes along the same lines of Tehama and TPC Monterey. Spectacular up and down elevation changes, especially on a set of holes early on in the back nine. Although the front nine's got some cool stuff flatter, lower down by the Carmel River, which is enjoyable. But to let you know what this course is, and there's a resort hotel, small one on property. It's only 61.17 from the tips. So you're going to get a lot of spills and thrills the rest of that kind of golf. But it is definitely precision golf, more so than what we typically favor in this day and age. Still worth seeing. Less wild in topography, but absolutely bucolic and enjoyable is another resort course nearby called Quail Lodge. Really wonderful accommodations, fantastic in its own right. Just kind of suffered because it wasn't next to the ocean. But again, warm weather, less fog, absolutely delightful ambiance. After a 2015 renovation by Todd Eckenrode, who was responsible for the renovation at Sharon Heights Golf and Country Club, LPGA's Fortinet event over the weekend, which delighted viewers and players with its appearance and playability. So Todd was busy a decade before putting Quail Lodge into a better golf course with improved irrigation, short grass, strategic bunkering. The last course I want to talk about, Al, is private. There is some lodging on site, but it's basically by member invitation. And that is the Preserve Golf Club in a development called the Santa Lucia Preserves. If you want to get Italian, we'll go Santa Lucia. But whatever you call it, this is an absolutely amazing golf course and an even more amazing property as a setting goes. I've been lucky enough to stay there a couple of times. It's almost indescribable what getting to the golf course is like. 8.5 miles straight up a twisty, winding road through the oak trees, up the mountain, and then you are in this absolute paradise. I mean that. Like, there's almost nothing here. A handful of houses spread out, a main hacienda, which has some places to stay and serves as the clubhouse. And then this golf course that was routed by Michael Pillette and then finished by Tom Fazio. It is in different top 100s, and not just once. It's I'm going to try to find some words because that's why you're listening to us. Its scale absolutely dwarfs the golf course. It's just one of the vastest scales imaginable of kind of hay-colored hills. Now, you can get long views of the Monterey Peninsula and the Pacific Ocean, but you feel microscopic in this setting. The Fazio golf holes are excellent in their own right. Lots of fantastic, beautiful live oak trees, nice bunkering in the usual Fazio style. Just room to breathe everywhere. Smack your driver. The rough's pretty good, but it's just, the golf course is anywhere from very good to great to, I don't remember it as well as I remember the setting. But man, oh man, one of the more unique places with a golf course set into it that I've visited in all these years of travel.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, this place is 20,000 acres. Um, you will that I've read that they will cap the number of homes there at 300. So it's, I mean, as you described, there's
20,000 acres. Yeah.
20,000, and then there's just nothing. 18 of those 20,000 are uh, permanent nature conservancy. So there is nothing. There will be nothing out at
Yeah. I mean,
the preserve.
you see horses over here, and then there's wild turkeys running over here. And then there's, I mean, pick some kind of wildlife that you could pot. Well, of course, all the deer that are all over these Monterey Peninsula courses. Um, it is like their nature preserve, and that is an apt name for this development and the golf course. So, um, probably the best fresh fruit and vegetables I've eaten anywhere, because it's most of it's produced in this region. Um, and yeah, I'm not, again, hard to put into words how different it is. When we talk about great golf courses on small pieces of property, this is an exceptional course on a mind-blowingly big scale, as far as the surrounding hills and views and the rest of it. So you just want to get lost in this gorgeous Carmel Valley weather. If you're there in June, I mean, it's some of the most perfect weather I've ever experienced. Wave the flag big time for this place.
Yeah, pretty big, significant tournament on the amateur golf scene. The Stalker Cup is played there at the Preserve Club annually. Heard a lot of good things about that place. I'm delighted to hear some that I wasn't familiar with, Joe. I'm sure if we kept expanding the range, we're going to get into more places that exist in sort of the reverberation of Pebble Beach resorts. But yeah, I would love to know if there's any that we didn't mention on this podcast that people would also chime in with around the Monterey Peninsula.
Well, good for you for another great visit last week, Al, with the good folks at Lynx. And I'll be, after this discussion, chomping at the bit to get anywhere near there as soon as I can.
Well, come join us in 2027, Joe, yourself, and then anyone listening. Come and see us out at the Lynx Invitational at Pebble Beach. We'll be there next March. For Joe Passoff, I am Al Lunsford. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Lynx Golf Podcast.